of the stage, not the son of the shadows. In a time of deadlock, titles are no longer enough, nor can the state be saved by the speeches of the hesitant or the maps of the incapable and weak. The coming stage requires a young face that does not tremble before the weight of the mission ahead, a force that does not apologize for its presence, and a mind that knows politics is not a salon for words, but a decision room and a field of testing. General Saddam is not a mere detail in the scene, but the title of a generation that wants to move from the margins of waiting to the center of action and national influence. A hard-working young man, solid in presence, swift in movement, and decisive in difficult moments, capable of speaking to security in the language of security, to politics in the language of decisiveness, and to the state in the language of prestige and sovereign authority. Libya has grown weary of faces that sell time in the name of wisdom and hide failure behind the language of consensus. It needs someone who does not circle endlessly around the crisis, but enters directly into its core. Someone who does not seek the stage as prestige, but carries it as responsibility. The coming battle is not merely a battle of names, but a battle of capability. And in an exhausted country, whoever possesses capability becomes a necessity, not a choice. For when institutions grow old, councils become stagnant, and politics turns into a waiting line, the state searches for a strong hand, a present mind, and a determined will that does not speak endlessly, but moves toward achieving national goals. That is why General Saddam appears closer to being the man of the stage, not only because he is young, but because the stage itself now needs the youth of strength, not the elders of obstruction. It needs decisiveness, not hesitation, prestige, not fragility, action, not empty words. But in the Libyan scene, surrounded by countless complexities, every real rise inevitably provokes an opposing reaction. And what happened with General Saddam was no exception. Over the past few weeks, the name of General Saddam Khalifa Haftar was no longer merely a military rank moving through operations rooms, but transformed into a center of gravity within an equation taking shape inside Libya and beyond. A pivotal transformation in the path of the rising general was met with an organized attack, crossing channels, borders, and digital platforms in a clear attempt to disrupt an advancing course and halt the steps of the general, whose movements have begun to shape the features of the new Libyan scene. The first indicators appeared in the language of numbers, as social media platforms in Libya recorded a notable rise of nearly 40% in the level of engagement linked to the name of the general. But what stood out most was not only the scale of engagement, but the way it was carefully built and politically directed to serve agendas targeting the general's movements and public meetings. An organized escalation built on one rhythm and managed through multiple coordinated tools, within what could clearly be described as the engineering and deliberate redirection of public opinion through networks, channels, media platforms, fake accounts, and figures claiming independence while moving within one unified path and operating under clearly defined political and media agendas. At the forefront emerged television channels and media platforms inside and outside Libya, leading the narrative and reproducing it daily, joined by dozens of pages that formed a unit of electronic flies, amplifying events and intensifying the attack. Ideologically driven media machines did not merely cover the general's movements, but were writing their own narrative in an attempt to redraw the scene according to their analyses and agendas through repeated headlines, packaged accusations, and terms pushed with a constant rhythm. All of them revolved around one point: distorting the rise of General Saddam Haftar and turning him from a key figure in Libya's stability equation into a threat to the country. Narratives and interpretations were launched through directed channels and platforms and adopted by pages and figures that linked General Saddam's movements to external files and agendas shaped behind circles, presenting his visits to Libyan cities and towns and his foreign tours to Washington, Europe, and Arab and African states with influence as suspicious alignments and political positioning, rather than practical and necessary national steps within a national political path seeking to break the state of deadlock and end the vicious cycle in which Libya had remained trapped for many long and exhausting years politically and economically.
ربما يستطيع حتى ابن صدام حسب التسريبات أن يصل إلى مناصب أخرى وبالتالي يفتك لنفسه مكاسب إضافية.
أنتم خايفين إن عائلة دبيبة تسلم الدنيا كلها لصدام.
اليوم صدام اللي يبني جيش هذا يقدر يطلع الروس من ليبيا.
يكون فيها صدام حفتر رئيس المجلس الرئاسي.
فإن صدام ومجموعته المستفيدة سيقومون بإغلاق الحقول والموانئ النفطية.
الآن يتصدر وريثه القادم اللي هو ابنه صدام. هذه حالة احتكار للسلطة.
هم مثلا مقابل أن صدام يكون رئيس مجلس الرئاسي ومجلس الرئاسي حسب قرارات الأمم المتحدة واتفاقيات الصخيرات وكذا.
Behind the scenes of these narratives, we found the fingerprints of groups that years ago grew accustomed to assassinating their opponents through explosive devices, suicide operations, and treacherous assassinations. But after its defeat in the battle of dignity against terrorism, it seized the weapon of media and began targeting everyone who opposes its extremist ideas through character assassination, distorting facts, and falsifying realities and events. The Libyan Islamic Fighting Group and the Muslim Brotherhood Organization, two currents that differ in name, yet meet in objectives. And over the past years, they formed one of the main makers of chaos and one of the most significant causes of Libya's political deadlock. While the first current became linked to bringing weapons into the political equation and entrenching the logic of conflict and cross-border terrorist militias, instead of state logic and strengthening security and stability, the Brotherhood current worked to ideologize institutions and turn them into tools of influence and domination, managed according to the organization's calculations, not Libya's interests, benefiting from its relationship with the fighting group current, which provided it with expansion in exchange for political and media cover. A complex relationship between those groups, where weapons merged with media rhetoric and cross-border terrorism with political justification, forming a model that combined militia terrorism on the ground with soft-spoken statements on television screens. Despite the different roles, the result remained the same for years: more chaos and deeper division, while the state was managed from outside its institutions, and politics was reduced to who pays cash to militias in exchange for control and loyalty. Libya, after the rise of Saddam Haftar, is not the same as it was before. The current of terrorism and its political cover were late in realizing this reality. The rise of General Saddam Haftar was not merely an advance within a military position, but a breaking of Libya's political taboos and a direct strike against the deadlock that had suffocated Libyans and upon which militias were built. Saddam did not emerge merely as a figure within the military institution, but presented a different model in managing the scene through the ability to move across more than one path simultaneously, security-wise, militarily, politically, and socially. And he remained present among Libya's tribes in the east and south, as well as at the tables of decision-making in Washington, where he opened direct channels of communication with the White House, to Ankara, where he recalibrated the compass of relations, passing through regional movements that included African and European states, foremost among them Italy, France, Malta, and others, and extending into the Arab depth from Egypt to the UAE and Jordan. These movements were not protocol gestures, nor political showmanship, but a serious attempt to reposition Libya within a balanced equation of relations, instead of remaining an open arena for regional and international conflicts. Here specifically, the general's efforts began to threaten the fifth column inside Libya, the current of loyalties and agendas and ideological projects. For the Libyan street, in the east, south, and west, no longer saw the rising general as merely the field marshal's son or an officer in the field, but as a player possessing the tools and the ability to deal with Libya's complex files. From securing the borders to reorganizing the internal front in security and services through his initiatives and movements in national reconciliation and rebuilding the threads of cohesion between Libya's tribes, to engaging in the political path through a network of international relations and carefully calculated movements. The general's policy, the Turkish model. In Saddam's movements, zero problems. Over the past year and a half, since the general entered the political arena in Libya, he has shown a different approach in dealing with both allies and opponents alike. In an approach that brought back memories of Turkey's rise during the first decade of the millennium as a regional power, seeking development through a simple equation: politics serving the economy. This was reflected in the general's advance in Libya through a different style, by reducing confrontation points with yesterday's opponents and expanding areas of understanding with partners, to reach a policy of zero problems with all sides, with the aim of restoring the Libyan political scene and saving the country from division before it is too late. A heavyweight political direction met with firmness and swift decisiveness against militias of money and weapons and organized crime mafias that repeatedly attempted to ignite the fires of chaos through the gateway of the South, with the aim of returning Libya to fire, bullets, and reckless projects across borders open to a vast desert. Flintlock Sirte, a political step in a military uniform. The military exercise witnessed by the city of Sirte, with the participation of nearly 30 countries from around the world, including the United States through AFRICOM forces, Italy, Turkey, and Arab and African states, was not merely a passing military drill, but an event loaded with meanings that went beyond the battlefield. The scene here was not only a display of power, but a clear political message at a highly sensitive moment, revealing Saddam Haftar's ability to manage a complex moment and turn it into an opportunity to mend the Libyan divide between East and West. The general's meeting with the deputy defense minister from the Western region within his efforts to unify the military institution was considered a painful blow to years of political propaganda that promoted the idea of the impossibility of convergence, the permanence of conflict, and the closure of political dialogue. A defining step in Libya's last decade that disrupted the policy of the terrorism current and pushed it to attack the general, demonize his movements, and reject his attempts and tireless efforts to reorganize the Libyan internal front through unprecedented media escalation and systematic campaigns aimed at sabotaging any path approaching the idea of unifying Libya through the gateway of the military institution.
صدام هو الذي بلع كل المبلغ هذا. صدام حفتر هو الذي استولى على هذا المبلغ كله. تطبيع وتطويع وتلوين بحيث تكسر الحواجز النفسية. ينبغي أن يجذب في جهة ولا ينزلق إلى هذا المستوى الذي حصل بينه وبين ولد حفتر.
Within a short period and with limited capabilities, the rising general managed to impose transformations in the Libyan equation. His political presence on the regional and international levels carries no less weight than his military role within the general command in developing the Libyan army and refining the skills of officers and soldiers. The general's axis and prominent role was noticed by Trump's eyes in Africa through his advisor for Arab and African affairs, Mossad Boulos, who strongly moved toward the Libyan general, seeking to establish a close relationship through which new balances could be imposed, instead of remaining trapped in a closed circle of negotiations with parties that exhausted all their chances without moving Libya a single step forward. In a notable analysis, the American website Washington Examiner described what took place in Sirte not as a military exercise, but as a new path taking shape in Libya under General Saddam Haftar. The American report pointed out that the choice of Sirte for the exercise was not a technical decision, but a political message reflecting Washington's orientation toward Libya through Saddam as a political and military figure with whom an alliance could be built as a partner in shaping stability in Libya and the region. Clearly pointing to Libyan ideological forces that obstruct the general's path and his steps toward unifying the military institution, and behind it, the Libyan state. An American reading that reflects not only a shift in Washington's position toward Libya, but also reveals the rise of General Saddam Haftar as a player who cannot be ignored or politically bypassed. The American report challenged one of the main narratives that media machines inside and outside Libya tried repeatedly to exploit and amplify by linking the general to Moscow. Yet Washington realized the young general's pursuit to reposition Libya within balances serving the country's interests and strategic priorities, away from regional and international influence. Saddam Haftar is no longer merely the military commander leading the army, but a maker of balances, managing Libya's relations with pragmatism and a policy far removed from sharp alignments. He does not move within a closed axis, nor present himself as an extension of a foreign agenda, but as a politician capable of moving between capitals and building intertwined relationships through which he imposes Libya's interests within highly sensitive regional and international equations. The equation has changed, and the scene has turned upside down. The power represented by Saddam is no longer confined to the military field alone, but has begun to appear elsewhere in the form of presence, the nature of relationships, and the way of dealing with files not managed by force alone. A presence measured by achievements, not by what is said, and by the ability to score points within a complex network of relations beyond Libya's borders. A rare equation in an environment accustomed to separating military power from political weight, achieved by the general within a few years, placing his name forward as captain of the Libyan ship and as part of the solution, not the problem, which explains the scale of local and international attention surrounding the general and the scale of attacks against him. Libya today stands before a dangerous turning point and a defining moment, more in need than ever of a figure capable of redefining its geopolitical position, east and west. After years of chaos, division, and multiple centers of power, the question is no longer who rules Libya, but who builds the state, who can impose its prestige, and who holds the keys to its stability, within a complex environment of intertwined interests. The conflict is no longer between names or positions, but between two different paths competing over Libya's future and direction. One path seeks to reproduce chaos through new tools, while the other attempts to break the closed cycle and move toward a new phase of stability and state building. Saddam rose quietly, distinguished by tireless work away from the spotlight, blending words with actions, field leadership with political movement, and the ability to build multi-directional relationships across regional and international arenas. The attacks against him and the attempts to distort his diplomatic path were not merely a passing campaign, but a reflection of a deeper conflict between two projects that do not meet politically or ideologically. A project of chaos, division, and fueling conflicts through ideological militias and suspicious media tools. And another project led by the Libyan general through calculated steps built on precision, balance, rebuilding institutions, and opening channels of communication between Libya and its regional surroundings. Saddam won the wager internally by imposing a different equation that rearranged the balance of power and opened paths that had remained closed for years. He became a central pillar in rebuilding a stable Libya, security-wise and politically, after politics in Libya had nearly been reduced to struggles of influence and bags of money.